What is up, guys? Randomonium here, and today we're going to be talking about how the meta is going to shift in Season 7. Now, if you haven't already seen my patch notes video, I highly recommend you watch that. I'll definitely be linking that video. And as a disclaimer, this video is going to be very speculative. I have no way to know for sure how the meta is going to shift. This is just my general thoughts. And the whole purpose of this video is actually to encourage discussion. So if you agree with me or you disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. Definitely state your arguments. I'm happy to have a good debate on this, but definitely keep things respectful for both myself and also for anybody else you respond to in the comments below. And let's have a civil discussion about this. This video is going to be kind of quick and dirty. I didn't put a lot of editing time into it, and that's just because that's the type of person I am. I just like to get the facts, really fast. If you prefer a little bit more colorful stuff, you want to see me playing in the background, you want to see like highlights of me playing while I talk about the meta shifts or overlays or other editing, definitely let me know in the comments because I want to kind of tailor my videos to my audience, but I prefer to just get the facts as fast as possible, so that's the type of videos that I make. And it allows me to put out a lot more videos than I normally would be able to because I've also got a full-time job and, a wife and other things like that. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So let's first talk about the Season 6 meta. So in Season 6, this is kind of what we saw at kind of high elo and at like the pro level, which is really what I'm going to be focusing on. So top lane, we saw lots of high damage dealers. Jace, Kennen, Rumble, solo queue you saw, Quinn, Pantheon, a bunch of other champions, but the common factor with all of these is really high damage champions in top lane. In the jungle, we saw high damage playmakers with like a very good early game or a very good mid game. So you're talking Nidalee, Lee Sin, Elise, Olaf. So more high damage, high playmaking ability, snowball the early game, things like that. In mid lane, we saw a mobile, high damage mid laners with CC, and a lot of times they had a lot of AoE damage. So we're talking Syndra, Victor, Cassiopeia, Ryze, to name a few. Vel'Koz is definitely in there as well. Basically just a lot of immobile, long range, or medium range mages. They can just pump out a lot of damage. AD carry, we saw high damage AD carries that had some sort of utility or CC associated with them. So Jhin, Ashe, Ezreal, Caitlyn, those are the ADCs that really succeeded throughout the entire season. And then at support, we saw a lot of squishy supports that had high damage or high CC. So we're talking Karma, Nami, Zyra, to name a few. So how can I summarize this? So we're seeing high damage, lots of AoE, good pick potential, like some CC, but not like a ton of it. Very few tanks in the meta, very squishy team comps. So looking at this, who is best to counter these kind of team comps? And the answer is assassins. And it just so happens that assassins are the class that got reworked for the Season 7 preseason. So I think that assassins are actually the best class that could have been reworked. It's almost like Riot predicted what was going to happen with the meta. So I'm really happy that Assassins got reworked. And I'm an AD carry main, so I hate Assassins. But I think that Assassins are going to be very good for the game as far as champion diversity is concerned. I know that's been a major complaint at the pro level, is champion diversity is very lacking. I feel like the reason for that is Assassins really weren't represented at the pro level. So I'm very excited to see how this will change the pro scene. So we're going to start off with mid lane, and I've already talked about how the assassins have become much more popular. They've all been reworked. A lot of them seem like they've gotten significant buffs and can deal a lot more damage, though they won't be able to do the damage as quickly. Their burst window has been extended. The assassins I think that are going to be really popular and successful are probably going to be Talon, Katarina, Fizz, Zed, and Echo. That's my guess. It's going to be difficult to tell. but I'm going to keep an eye on all the statistics, and I'll probably do a follow-up video later on which assassins are succeeding in the current meta. And this is going to drive the meta away from the squishy damage comps, because you're also going to see assassins coming into the jungle as well. So going for the squishy damage comps is going to be much higher risk, and you're going to see people kind of diversify their champion pool and go back towards more tanky picks or picks that have a lot more CC. And I think that what you're going to see in mid lane is you're going to see this kind of rock, paper, scissors game like you see a lot of times in bot lane as well. But in mid lane, the rock, paper, scissors is going to be burst, tankiness, and poke. So this is kind of an example of what I think is roughly going to happen. Understand that I'm really generalizing here, so don't smash me in the comments saying, "Oh, this champion doesn't counter this one." These are just generalizations. I'm trying to just illustrate a larger point of how this rock paper scissors will work. So we saw in season 6 that poke champions, these long range AoE damage champions, were the norm. That's the scissors on the right side of the screen. Those were the popular champs: Vel'Koz, Syndra, Xerath, Victor, Ziggs, Orianna, Ahri, Aurelion Sol, the list goes on. The reason why those champions were so popular was because their counter, the Rock, which in this case is burst champions, the assassins mainly, were not very strong. Now that assassins are a lot stronger, you're going to see them come back into play. So these burst champions are the assassins. On the left side of the screen, that's Talon, Katarina, Fizz, Zed, Echo, LeBlanc, Akali, and Kassadin. As these champions become more popular, as the assassins become more popular, you're going to see tanky mid laners come back into the meta as well. And I'm using tanky very loosely. I'm talking about champions that can survive the burst of an assassin, or they can completely negate the burst of an assassin, like a champion that is like Annie, who's a mid-range and can just pretty much just lock down the assassin before they can get their combo off and kill them before they can get their combo off. So these kind of tanky mid-range champions like Anivia, Annie, Malzahar, Diana, Lissandra, Cho'Gath, Kayle, Swain, Ryze, all these champions are going to do very well against assassins. So you've got this kind of strange rock, paper, scissors going because the more mid-range tanky champions do not do well against long-range AoE mages. So I really like this. I think it's going to create a lot of diversity in the mid lane, and I'm excited to see what happens as the season progresses and people figure out how to play these new champions. Moving on to the jungle, I feel like the jungle is going to be split between assassins and the tanky junglers who can utilize the new Mastery Courage of the Colossus. With Strength of the Ages being removed, that was pretty much the go-to mastery for every single jungler in the meta. And pretty much everybody went Strength of the Ages because it was just free stats. Now that that's gone, I think you're going to see a lot of jungle champions kind of struggle with which mastery do they go to. And the champions that can go immediately to Courage of the Colossus are going to be the ones that are really successful. So the assassin junglers I think you're going to see a lot of are Kha'Zix, Rengar, Nidalee, and Evelynn. Those are the big ones. And then on the Courage of the Colossus side, I think it's going to be Vi, Hecarim, Zac, Amumu, Sejuani. Those kind of champions are going to kind of see a boost in their win rate at the beginning of the season. As the season progresses, I think the jungle will stabilize, and you'll see kind of comfort picks, familiar friends like Olaf, Graves, Lee Sin, Gragas, Udyr, and maybe even Rek'Sai sneak back into the meta, because I think that those champions never kind of stay out of it for too long. They'll find a way back in. Either Riot will buff them or some other meta shift will bring them back into the meta. All right, moving on to top lane. So I don't think that high damage top laners, especially like the ranged top laners, are going to go away completely, but they're going to be a much riskier pick. Because of these assassins, because of a lot of this CC that's going to be coming out from the jungle, and then also, the roaming mid laners, instead of having these static mages who just wave clear in mid lane, having a lot more roams in the top lane, that's going to really hurt these ranged high damage top laners. So I think the bruisers, juggernauts, tanks will come back into the meta to deal with assassins and to help round out the team comps. So the big thing with when these champions come back in the meta is it's unclear whether Grasp of the Undying or Courage of the Colossus will be a better mastery for the tanky top laners. Grasp will undoubtedly be better in lane for the additional sustain, but Courage of the Colossus will be better for team fighting and also in the late game because it's a shield that scales off of maximum health and it gets stronger the more enemy champions you're around. So it's really going to be an interesting trade-off on whether you prioritize winning the laning phase or whether you prioritize those mid to late game team fights if you're playing a tanky top laner. Moving on to support. So very similar to top lane, I think that high damage supports are going to become much more risky due to assassins in the mid lane and also assassins in the jungle. And the big reason for this is that supports need to be able to roam. They need to be able to get that deep vision down, and it's really dangerous to walk into an unwarded area to try and get wards down when you're a squishy support, and when that jungler can just pop out of a bush and just instantly kill you, because supports are typically a lower level and have less items, less stats than anyone else in the game. So even though assassins have had their burst window increased, assassins will still be able to kill these squishy supports relatively easily. So vision control and vision denial is going to be much easier to accomplish with tanky supports like Sion, Taric, Leona, Nautilus, Tahm Kench, Braum, Alistar. All of those supports I think are going to become much more powerful, and they're basically going to be kind of like champions that you pick to just kind of survive the laning phase. As long as you survive the laning phase, you should come out with a pretty huge advantage. I also think what people like to call cock block supports are also going to become much more viable. And by that I mean supports that keep their AD carry alive or keep their squishy champions alive if somebody tries to dive them. So you're talking Janna, Soraka, Lulu, Taric. All of those champions are going to become a lot more viable, I think, in the meta. Taric, actually, especially, I think that he's going to become actually kind of hidden OP, because since the burst window for assassins has been increased, the delay on Taric's ultimate is not as big of a deal. So if Taric just instantaneously pops his ultimate on his AD carry as soon as the assassin dives, you're pretty much guaranteed that the assassin cannot kill the AD carry. So that's kind of a hidden thing that I hope that you guys try out, kind of a little secret for you guys watching this video. But I think that Taric is going to be very powerful in the early parts of this season. And the rock, paper, scissors of the kill, poke, and sustain lanes in bot lane will continue. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, just leave a comment and I'll either respond directly to you, or if I get enough people saying that they don't understand what I'm talking about with this rock, paper, scissors in bot lane, I'll make a video on it. But essentially there are 3 types of lanes that you can have in bot lane, and one counters one of the other two. So like kill lanes counter sustain lanes, poke lanes counter kill lanes, sustain lanes counter poke lanes, etc., etc. So that finally brings us to AD carries. And the big question on my mind with AD carries is whether or not AD carries can abuse the new assassin items. And it's still kind of unclear whether they can. I know that some of the YouTubers have been putting out videos saying, oh, this is so broken on these champions, but I'm not sold on it yet. I need to play some games with it. I need to see some more statistics before I'm going to say that AD carries can abuse these assassin items as much as they were able to in Season 6. If it turns out that they can, I think that Misfortune and Jhin are going to be kind of the top tier picks among AD carries. They're going to be able to do a ton of damage. I also think that Twitch and Vayne are like going to be really sleeper OP. And they might be able to really benefit from these assassin items. Additionally, I think that immobile AD carries are going to be a lot higher risk in solo queue. I think that they're going to still be very popular in the flex queue, but if you're playing AD carry solo, you're probably going to need to peel for yourself, which means you're probably going to want to pick up a mobile AD carry like Ezreal, Lucian, or Vayne. So you can see that I've already said Vayne once with the assassin items. I said Vayne again as far as mobility is concerned. And then also finally with more tanks returning to the meta, I think Vayne will become even a stronger pick. On top of that, Vayne has received quite a few buffs recently and currently on the PBE. They're reverting the nerf on Blade of the Rune King back to 8% of a target's current health. So all of these things, in my mind, are pointing to a meta where Vayne will be incredibly strong in Season 7. That's just my personal opinion. Um, I still think that these 80 caster, 80, 80 carries are going to be very strong, like Misfortune and Jin. But it's going to be very interesting to see whether the new Fervor allows 80 carries to be as good as they were in Season 6. I think actually the 80 carry that's going to benefit the most from the new Fervor is probably going to be Lucian. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. That's my thoughts on the meta. That's how I think things are going to change in the future. If you disagree with me, let me know. If you agree with me, let me know. If you like the content on the channel, please subscribe. Please hit that thumbs up button. It definitely helps a lot. I hope you all have a great day. This is Ranmonium signing off.